What is up, everybody? We are back once again to bless your ears and grace your screens with another exciting episode of The Rundown, an official podcast of the Washington football team, and a special win and in playoff edition of The Rundown. I am Zach Selby, staff writer for WashingtonFootball.com. With me, as always, is Kyle, the man, the myth, the legend, the editor of WashingtonFootball.com. And Kyle, I mean, the feeling, I can feel it all the way here in my apartment. I mean, the feeling is electric in DC right now. I mean, this is a chance to get in the playoffs for the first time and win the division for the first time since 2015. How are you feeling right now, man? You have to be, I don't know, if you're like me, you're on cloud nine right now.
Yeah, a lot of different emotions. Obviously, excitement because they're in this position to make the playoffs for the first time since 2015. Also, a little anxious based on how they've played the past couple of games, but also nervous too because there's a lot up in the air, especially on offense, about who's actually going to play. And so it's just fascinating. There's just so much to be decided before the game even happens. And then once the game happens, it's going to be all excitement because, I mean, how good would it be to beat a division rival to get into the playoffs in Ron Rivera's first season? So I'm hyped up above everything else, especially because I'm on the podcast with you, TV Stats, last podcast of 2020. So let's make it a great one.
I agree. Let's go ahead and do that. But before we do, we got to start every podcast off the way we do. Before we get into the breakdowns and all that other stuff, we got to get into the plugs. So let's go ahead and get that started. This is an official podcast of the Washington football team. You can check us out wherever you find your podcast: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, YouTube for the preview sections, audio only for the post-game sections. You can rate, review, subscribe. Check us out on the Twitters at Stackpole, at Zach D. Selby, almost messed up my Twitter handle there. At Stevie at Kath_Stevie. And yeah, again, make sure you rate, review, subscribe, give us all the comments you can give us, because we deliver the best content all the time, every time. Stevie comes in off of mute just to give us that. I love it. So let's go ahead and jump into this matchup. But before we do, we gotta address the biggest news of the week. Obviously, Dwayne Haskins was released on a Monday afternoon. It's ends his 2-year career in Washington. But Kyle, real quick, just what are your takeaways from the news?
Yeah, I just think that, just echo what Rivera said in his statement that, he thought it was best for both parties to move on. And I think that's really, there's all there is to say. And we're looking forward to Sunday.
Yeah, I got to know Dwayne a little bit for that Players Tribune story that I wrote on before COVID hit, and I mean, I really do wish him well. Honestly, I really do. I think he has the ability, but again, like you said, just it was time for maybe for all parties just to move on. But let's move on into the polls here for segment one, and this is it's an interesting little way to end the season because we started the season off with Washington playing the Eagles at FedEx Field, and then here we are almost 3 months later in the same situation. We're going over to Lincoln Financial Field, but this offense and defense have changed a lot recently. I would say that this team is nowhere near what the team that it was at the beginning of the year. So let's just kind of break down each side of the ball here. And Kyle, tell me, how do you think this offense has changed over the past 3 months?
Yeah, so the biggest thing have to be the quarterback, because what Washington has gone through at that position is just insane. So you start with Dwayne Haskins' first 4 games, then you go to Kyle Allen for a couple games, then Kyle Allen gets hurt, and then you go to Alex Smith, then Alex Smith gets hurt, and it's back to Dwayne, and then Heineke gets a quick 9 minutes in there, and now it's either Heineke or Smith. So it's been hard because injuries have really prevented Washington from having that consistency at quarterback, but you've seen it when Alex is under center, they're playing at their best. So that's the biggest thing. But then looking at the offensive side of the ball, Antonio Gibson establishing himself as a quality running back, not just a guy that they hope to contribute in year one. J.D. McKissick being one of the best receiving running backs in the league. And guys like Cam Sims and Logan Thomas coming on as pass catchers. We didn't think much of either of them, not no disrespect to them, but just based on their past experience, they hadn't put up the numbers that they have this year. So a ton has changed, a lot for the better. And Yeah, it's been wild. I mean, Scott Turner said it feels like 5 years, and it really does. It's crazy.
Yeah, the story of 2020 is that it feels like 5 years, honestly. And
Yep.
but in those 5 years, it feels like this Washington offense has gotten better. And Scott Turner even said that he feels like the unit has gotten a lot better than what it did in week one. I mean, if you look at what Antonio Gibson has done, I mean, he's established himself as this team's starting running back, like they probably expected him to do. I mean, he's their primary touchdown scoring guy. And Logan Thomas on top of that has also been the tight end that they thought that he was going to be. So their investments have paid off in this offseason. I think that's been the biggest thing. I mean, and if you look at the preseason, they didn't have any preseason, had a shortened training camp. So, they had to have the training wheels on a little bit longer than you would have wanted. But I think, once they found their stride against that first win against the Cowboys, it's been more winning than losing. And I think that they really expect that to be the case as they have a young core that they can build around. But speaking of young cores, I mean, we got to go to the defense here, and probably the biggest and most talented young core they have is on the defensive line. And they even said this defense is probably a little bit ahead of the offense back a few months ago. But what do you think about this defense? I mean, it's obviously improved, but how much has it improved?
It's improved tremendously, even based on what they were expected to be during the season. I remember a lot of people were talking about it, and if you said, hey, this could be a top 5 defense, people were being like, all right, like pump the brakes here.
Mm-hmm.
They were not good last year. Let's see if Del Rio can get this unit to be in the top 10. But meanwhile, I mean, I think they're number 4 right now, and there's one game left, and they're third in passing defense. So they are, by a lot of metrics, a top 5 defense, which is more than you could have imagined entering the year. And it's because of the coaching, and it's because of the defensive line. They've led the way. And then linebackers and secondary, you've gotten some good performances from Cole Holcomb, Kendall Fuller, Ronald Darby, Cam Curl. So the defense is all that you could have wanted it to be and more. And it's even more promising going forward because of how young they are.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop another nerd reference on you guys, you and Stevie, and I don't know if y'all have seen The Matrix, but there's a point where you see all like the green numbers and stuff, and then everything all of a sudden starts becoming clear. That's what like Rivera was.
I've seen that part. Okay.
Yeah, that's what like Rivera was with this offseason, because he pretty much revamped the entire secondary with Ronald Darby, Kendall Fuller, and then bringing guys like Cam Curl in the draft. I mean, and it worked out really well for him. I mean, they're probably one of the best secondaries in the league right now. Just in terms of total yards. And then the defensive line, obviously, I mean, they were starting to break the habits of the old regime, the old coaching habits that they had, and they're starting to ascend at the right time. They've been dominant all year, but it's really just been they're starting to understand that if you can have the ability along with the coaching skills that they have, they can really be dominant. All right, and before we head on over to the second segment, which will be interviewing Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, we're going to talk about the implications of this game overall. Now, win or lose, I mean, they've doubled their win total. Washington has. I mean, they're in position to win the playoffs. I mean, which is an accomplishment that
playoffs.
What? What was that?
You said win the playoffs. So it's like, oh, they're going to win this whole thing.
Get in the playoffs. Yeah, thank you for constantly checking me, editor Kyle Stackpole. But so win or lose, Kyle, what is your perception of the season, one way or the other?
Yeah, I think the perception doesn't change. Like in general, the perception doesn't change to me whether they get in or not, because you look at what this year was about, and it was about figuring out what you have, and they were able to do that at a lot of different positions. Obviously, the draft picks, some of them have hit really well. You have the free agents who have been awesome. Some are having career years. And as disappointing as this is, like you found out that you didn't have your franchise quarterback. And that's something that you need to look for. But at least you know that now, and you can move on from that. So I think so whatever happens, obviously you'd love to win, and that would be a bonus. Coach Rivera said we're playing with house money. But even if they lose, while disappointing, looking at the season as a whole, it was very positive because Rivera instilled what he wanted to, and there is that core that he talked about that is really going to help this team going forward.
Yeah, I know Washington fans aren't going to like it, obviously, if Washington loses, but you have to look at the situation in they didn't realize they were gonna had a bigger position to win the division until week 5. And then all of a sudden you realize like, hey, no one's run away with this division. We like the talent we have. Let's see if we can actually do the dang thing and get into the playoffs. And you know, and at that point, they've doubled their win total, like I said. I mean, for me personally, I thought that was like more of a realistic goal for them, seeing as how far the roster had to go until it was actually, playoff and beyond ready. But now they've already done that, and they might even exceed that expectation. And like you said, like they've figured out some solutions to some of the problems they have, and some have arisen, and those are discussions that we're going to be talking a lot about from January to April, honestly, and may probably even beyond that. But I think this season is a success. I think it's a good, strong step one to building the old phrase that Rivera's been saying ever since his first day, which comes up coincidentally enough tomorrow on New Year's Day, is sustainable winning culture. And you gotta be happy with the first step, in my opinion. But
yeah, the one thing I will say is that fans definitely have a right to be pissed off and frustrated if they don't win on Sunday, because you're in a position at 6-7, and all you have to do is, you'll win one more game, you would think, and you're in the playoffs. And if they can't do that, that would really be disappointing. So, like, for fans, it's totally understandable if they're frustrated, if they're disappointed. But I don't think that, like, that stretch of the year is emblematic of like where this team is going forward. But I just wanted to make sure, because fans do have a right, because if you can't win one of your final 3 games to get in the playoffs, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
That's a fair point. It's a really fair point. And that's a good way to end this segment for the Pulse. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be talking to Eagles insider Dave Spadaro to break down the Eagles roster and some other keys to this winning in game for Washington.
Join Washington Salute and Fresh Vine Wine in supporting our troops this holiday season by using code USOWAS on any 3-bottle wine set, and 50% of proceeds from each sale will benefit USO Metro this holiday season. Show your support by visiting www.freshvineWine.com/USOWAS today.
You can hear every Washington football team game on the Team 980 and streaming on the radio.com app. Listen to the Team 980 every day for expert analysis, Washington football guests, and your calls, along with hosts Kevin Sheehan, Washington football legend Brian Mitchell, Steve Zabin, and more on the official radio home of the Washington football team. Download the radio.com app and favorite the Team 980 today to listen on your phone or smart speaker. At RTS, game day strategy doesn't stop when the whistle blows. RTS delivers smarter, more responsible waste and recycling services. As an official partner of the Washington football team, RTS is connecting the team and FedEx Field with sustainable solutions to care for the community and the environment. RTS, a better waste company. Find out more at rts.com.
Has your business been affected by COVID-19? Have you considered reducing or moving your office space? Then it's time to call Victory Van. We provide the best service and price with flexible options for your company's moving and storage needs. Visit victoryvan.com to get your free moving and storage quote today. For corporate storage and moving, it's always the right move to choose Victory Van. That's victoryvan.com. Victory Van Corporation, delivering excellence for 75 years and a proud partner of the Washington football team.
We are back on the Rundown Podcast, an official podcast of the Washington football team. And with us to discuss this winning in Week 17, Sunday Night Football edition of Week 17, we have Eagles insider Dave Spadaro joining us. Dave, how are we doing, man? It's been almost 3 months since we last talked to you. How's it going?
Well, you're playing to win and go in. The Eagles are playing to be the role of the spoiler. So it's not very fun. And it's something that the Eagles haven't been in this role for many years. Being in the playoffs the last 3 seasons, winning the Super Bowl. It's an uncomfortable feeling. It's been a difficult season, but I really, Zach, it's so interesting to see from September 13th, when the Eagles played at Washington to open the season, to now, how the two teams' paths have, gone in opposite directions. And I think back to some of the things that happened on September 13th. And it's just, it really followed those mistakes followed the Eagles through the entire season. So it's been a really disappointing year. And I'm really, I got to give Ron Rivera and Washington a lot of credit for what you guys have done down there and the position you're in on Sunday night.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation. Last year, Eagles winning the NFC East. This year, everyone but the Eagles have a chance to make the playoffs in some ways. This shows how crazy this year has been. But you talk about how the paths have diverged a little bit, from that Week 1 matchup. But how have the Eagles changed since that Week 1 matchup specifically?
Well, there's Carson Wentz is no longer the quarterback.
Yep.
That's the most obvious one. Offensive line on Sunday night will start its 13th different combination with a 4th string right tackle, a 4th string left tackle. So that's really hard to imagine blocking that front four from Washington. The defense has been unable to take the football away for much of the year. The red zone defense hasn't been good. The run defense ranks 24th in the league. It's a team that, coming into the season, I felt with the only team in the division that had a returning coaching staff, veteran players, a quarterback who had been there, a late season run in 2019 to win the division. I thought the Eagles were primed to be the first team since the Eagles back in 2003, 2004 to repeat as division champions. And it just hasn't happened. Tons of injuries, lots of inconsistency, the mysterious decline of Carson Wentz. And so now what we're looking at is a team that's going to take a peek at some young players and see what they've got get a little bit more education on them for 2021.
Let's talk about who's going to be starting at quarterback on Sunday night. Jalen Hurts, the rookie. It seems like he's shown some good things, also maybe some not so good things. So, what have you seen from him since he's taken over a starter? And what do you think that means for Sunday night?
Honestly, Kyle, I've seen more than I expected to see. I thought he was going to be a runaround quarterback. And certainly we've seen that because he's really dynamic with his legs. But big arm, a lot of poise, has played pretty well. Look, in Dallas the other day, last week, it was terrible after the first half. And that's really where the Eagles have fallen off with Jalen Hurts. They've only scored 13 points in the second half of his 3 starts, 54 points in the first half of his 3 starts. But Jalen looks like he's got a lot of talent. He's got something to build on. And the comparisons to Dak Prescott are probably pretty accurate. Look, he leaves the pocket still a bit too early. He had the 3 fourth quarter turnovers against Dallas. Those things need to be improved. He's fumbled 6 times. He's got to have better ball security. But he is a dynamic talent. Again, for Sunday, what is going to be so difficult is this frothing at the mouth Washington front that had 8 sacks in Week 1 against Carson, against what the Eagles, an offensive line that was in much better shape then than it is now, even though it was banged up then. The Eagles are putting out an offensive line that's really scary to think about because they just haven't played together. So I could see Jalen running for his life quite a bit. Interesting to see what the Eagles do to mitigate that, how they order up some quick releases and get him out of the pocket. But I will say this, he's a very dynamic talent, and he's going to give Washington some things to think about because he is so mobile and he's got such presence and he keeps his eyes down the field and he's got a big arm and he's throwing the ball pretty well other than the 4th quarter last week in Dallas.
Yeah, he might be running for his life, but if anything, it's shown that one of the weaknesses of this defensive line has been mobile quarterbacks. So maybe he'll present more challenges than others. But going to the other side of the ball, just looking at the injury report here for that other, for the Eagles defensive line, which is also really good. Derek Barnett, Fletcher Cox, both DNPs for Wednesday's practice report. What will this pass rush do if, I know it's only Thursday, but what will this pass rush do if one or either of those guys can't go?
I would be surprised if either of them plays. So looking at Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrave, who's really had a couple of moments, but not as consistently dominant as the Eagles expected him to be. And then, Pick'em as the other pass rusher. So tough. I really expect whoever plays quarterback for Washington to get the football out quickly and mitigate anything the Eagles do in terms of their pass rush. Eagles won't blitz a lot. They've got so many problems in the secondary. I don't know if McLaurin's going to play, but I really expect the Eagles to battle this with some tenacity. They're just so undermanned. And I guess the big question is who's playing quarterback for Washington, who's playing wide receiver. But this Eagles defense is not nearly the force it would be if Fletcher Cox plays. And I just think at this point, that's asking a lot.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that a little more because the past couple of weeks against the Cardinals and Cowboys, it was really the defense that let them down. I mean, 37 points to the Cowboys is unacceptable from anybody. So what has happened with the defense? Has it been those injuries? Has it just been like other things that have led to all those yards and points?
The secondary is missing its top safety, Rodney McLeod. Starting cornerback Avonte Maddox is out. Darius Slay will take the best wide receiver you've got. But then there's really not a whole lot of proven depth there. So the Eagles are running with a lot of young players. And one of those players, rookie Michael Jaquette, got torched last week in Dallas. They went right after him with Michael Gallup. Linebackers have not been particularly productive. They've got some injuries there as well. Defensive line's all banged up. No Cox, no Derek Barnett likely. So it's a combination. Injuries, they haven't taken the football away very much, Kyle. And it's just a defense that plays with a lot of downhill performance up front, but on the back end, I think there's only one team in the league with fewer interceptions than the Eagles. So they don't take the football away very much. And they've been a bend but don't break. The last 2 weeks, they've given up 500 plus yards to both the Cardinals and the Cowboys. And so there's the bend, but the bad news is they've given up 30 points plus to each of those teams, and that's the break part. So the Eagles at this point, the last couple of weeks, they've been bend and break on defense.
So finally, before we get you out of here, Dave, we really appreciate you coming on to talk with us. We ask everybody this before we head them out there. What are going to be some keys to this game? The Eagles, like you said, are trying to play spoilers, and Washington's got everything to play for them. So what are going to be some key parts of this game?
I think the Eagles have to get off to a good start. Playing for pride it sounds great, but you fall behind early. I've seen it over the years so many times. You fall behind early, that pride kind of goes away. This is a game on national television. This is a game where Washington could wear the NFC East hat on the Eagles' home field. So the Eagles getting a lead is critical. I think winning the turnover battle is also very important. And then offensively, if they can establish the run, Zach, that'll make life a lot easier for Jalen Hurts and company. But tall tasks, because the Eagles have not done any of that with any consistency this season. But certainly, I would say scoring early and feeling it just a little bit would help the Philadelphia Eagles a whole lot on Sunday night.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's definitely going to be some revenge factor to the Eagles from starting their season off with a loss. But Dave, we've upgraded. I haven't get a chance to see you in person yet, but Zoom wise, we finally see your face. But
it's so disappointing, isn't it? Really?
I wouldn't say that, but hopefully one day we'll actually be able to sit in Lincoln Financial Field Stadium or at FedEx Field and be able to see each other in person and talk some ball together.
Yeah, man, I hope so. Hopefully 2021 brings health and happiness and NFL fans in the stands for sure. Good luck on Sunday night, guys, and hope you lose, but had a nice journey so far this season, and really impressive job, honestly, by Ron Rivera, who I got to know in Philadelphia. He's a great man, and he's certainly a fantastic head coach.
All right, Dave, appreciate you. Have a good one.
Talking to you.
Happy New Year, guys.
Finch Services Incorporated, recognized in its industry as a world-class organization, is the exclusive supplier of John Deere golf and sports turf maintenance equipment for the Mid-Atlantic region. In business since 1945, Finch helps golf course and sports turf managers maintain some of the most exclusive playing surfaces in the region. Experience the Finch advantage for yourself. Contact one of our golf and sports turf sales specialists to see how we can help you maintain your field of dreams. Go to finchturf.com for more information. Couchgating, presented by the DC Lottery. Couchgating is the new tailgating. Enter to win a chance at a WFT DC Lottery fan pack. Celebrate your Couchgate by sharing a photo using hashtag DCL to have your Couchgating photo featured on the Couchgating Wall of Fame. Please post your photos on social media using the tags at Washington Football, at DC Lottery, and the hashtag CouchGatingDCL for consideration. Please note that not all photos will be accommodated on the Couchgating Wall of Fame, and all Couchgating photos are posted on the sole discretion of the Washington Football Team.
It's all-wheel drive season, and your local Honda dealers are bringing the best deals of the year. It's clearance pricing during the Happy Honda Day sales event. Dash through the snow in a rugged and adventurous Honda. Check out our entire all-wheel drive truck and SUV lineup: CRV, HRV, Ridgeline, Pilot, Passport, with features like Honda Sensing, Magic Folding Seats, and 3 different driving modes. Clearance pricing is here, but it won't last long. Don't miss clearance pricing at Happy Honda Days sales event, now at your local Honda dealer.
Back here on the Rundown Podcast, an official podcast of the Washington football team. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe. And we thank Dave Spadaro, friend of the show, I think we can go ahead and say, one of the few repeat guest appearances on the Rundown. Always a joy to talk to Dave. We really appreciate it. But now we have another joy coming to us, the third member of the trinamic trio of the Rundown, Stevie Stats. I actually told Stevie, because we're all working hard. I was like, you look tired, Stevie. Are you okay? We're genuine concern for this woman. And she goes, dang, Zach, what's wrong with you? And I was like, Stevie, you look great. But tell us, how are you doing for this New Year's Eve?
I'm good. Yeah, Zach told me I look tired, and I was like, wow, I actually slept in a little bit today and yesterday. So thanks, Zach.
Uh-oh.
I'm
Zach,
doing
you
good.
messed up, man.
Happy New Year to everyone. Kyle, Zach, Happy New Year to you guys and all of our listeners and fans out there.
But let's go ahead and dive into the studs and duds. And we told Stevie that we want some interesting outside the box ones in the pregame meeting yesterday. So Stevie, I know you got some good ones for us. So let's start off with the first one. What you got for us?
Okay, the first one is gonna be an easy one, but I still just want to do it. Let's go with quarterback Taylor Heineke.
Oh man.
Start us off, Kyle.
All right. Yeah. If you consider 9 minutes to be a stud, then sure, he's a stud. But no, really, I mean, he did more than anyone could have expected when he was in there. I mean, even Ron Rivera was surprised with what he was able to accomplish. And he was the one who brought him in, and he was with him in Carolina. So, I mean, the fact that he could just go in there and adapt to the situation and make all the throws, run when he needed to, throw a touchdown, get them back in the game. And so based on what Coach Turner and Coach Rivera said about him during Wednesday's pressers, go back and listen to those if you haven't. That really is it gives you more confidence that if he has to start, he can, because he's a really smart guy. He's able to think on his feet. He's able to retain information. So he's definitely, a stud. He might have had the best 9-minute stretch of any player this season. I would have to go back on that, but I guess he's a stud for me.
Yeah, I'll go with the stud too. I think Kyle actually wrote a story about getting to know Taylor Heineke. By the way, it is Taylor Heineke, not Tyler Heineke, even though it rolls off the tongue a little bit better. But Kyle, didn't he throw for 730 yards in a game?
Yep.
In his college career?
Yeah, it's still the FCS record, 730 yards. He had 791 total because he had 61 rushing yards. This guy slings the ball around. He's super athletic. He's exciting.
Yeah, y'all go read that whenever you get the chance. But I think he's a stud too, because he came into that game and just didn't miss a beat. He came in there and just made the throws, rammed his legs when he needed to, and he's been really attentive. And Ron Rivera say his attention to detail and his retention rate has been really impressive. And when you're a backup, you always have to go in there preparing like you're going to be the starter. And you know what? He might be this week. You never know. So I have to go with studs as well. Steve, do you have an opinion on Taylor Heineke?
Yeah, so I would have to agree. I would go with the stud. I just think it's hilarious that a month or a month and a half ago, he was taking his finals online. I think in his post-game press conference, he said he got an A and a B, and then he's just going to finish the rest after the season. So I thought that was funny. So he's definitely a stud for me, though. So let's move on to our next one, which is going to be head strength and conditioning coach Chad Engelhart.
Oh my God.
That is really outside of the box. Wow, that's pretty solid. I'll honest with you, I don't know that much about Chad Engelhart. I've talked to him once back whenever we were allowed to be in the building for COVID in the weight room, but I got to go with stud because if you look at let's take Chase Young in the offensive line or in the defensive line, for example. The offensive line has really played pretty well, and they've been able to manhandle some guys. I think, especially later on in the year, they've sort of come on and played well. I think that a lot of that has to do with being in the weight room with Engelhart. And well, they haven't really been in the weight room that much lately because of the COVID restrictions. And he's in charge of their weight programs, and he's the one who really helps them out whenever they're working out on their own. So, and that's pretty crazy. You wouldn't really expect that from a strength and conditioning coach this year. So I'm going to go with the stud is for him. I think back-to-back studs for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely a stud because of what he's had to deal with, because of no in-person off-season workouts. I'm sure it was hectic sending guys these plans, figuring out equipment. I know Tressway, maybe it was a couple of years ago, but he had Chad send some equipment, or he told him to buy this equipment and that so that continuous workout. So there was so much that he had to deal with this offseason. And then I think being able to acclimate the rookies and the free agents to the strength and conditioning program and getting them ready, because it would have been easy for them coming from outside, whether it be another team or college, not to be ready for the NFL level, or at least be ready to compete in the NFC East. And as we've said, a lot of the draft picks and the free agents have been really good this year. So like you said, I don't know exactly what he's had to go through. I'm sure it's a lot because everyone has, but yeah, not being able to be in the weight room is really tough. And I think Washington there hasn't been any negatives in terms of their health or anything like that. So yeah, I think he's done a really good job.
I'd have to agree. I think he would be a stud in my book as well. I just always think about the what was it? The tweet that went viral of him from the 2019 NFL draft or combine, banging on the guy's chest before he did the what are these called? The
bench press. Yeah,
bench press. Yeah,
he was slapping Ed Oliver. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. All right, but let's move on to the last one. Let's go with rookie wide receiver Antonio Gandy-Golden, AGG.
Ooh. I guess I got to start. AGG, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to call you a dud for this year. It's tough because it seemed like AGG was just starting to come along, and then he suffered that hamstring injury, which kept him out for a month. And he played by far the most against the Panthers that he has all season. Didn't really make an impact. I just think that setback, that injury, really hindered his development in addition to all the COVID stuff. And I think it's tough coming from a small school too. So I don't think it's any fault of his own because it was the circumstances and the injury. But in terms of his production from a 4th round pick that should have had opportunities in this wide receiver room, he hasn't been able to do really much of anything. So maybe he can turn it around this week. Who knows? Because if Taylor McLaurin can't play, he could be getting some looks. So maybe AGG can prove me wrong this week.
Yeah, I unfortunately have to go with a dud as well because I like the kid. I think he's really good, or could be really good. I mean, he's at Liberty. He was a stud at Liberty.
He's a super stud.
Yeah, we'll call him a super stud. But the thing is, we just don't know what AGD is going to be, and that's disappointing because we hoped that we would have known an answer about that by now. And that's not any fault of his own. He's been hurt, but at the same time, he hasn't really produced for a wide receiver group that has been in desperate need outside of Terry McLaurin of a number 2 guy. They thought they had Dontrell Inman, wasn't Dontrell Inman. Cam Sims, Steven Sims, both kind of still up in the air. They've had flashes. They've also had some not so great moments. Mm-hmm. So I think AGG is a guy you really wanted to kind of he wanted him to kind of be one of the under the radar sort of moves. Like, oh my God, they got a steal out of AGG, but we'll just have to wait until next year to see what he can really do.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think he would be a dud in my book as well. But hopefully, this upcoming weeks, or next season, that he'll definitely show flashes for us.
Well, Steve, I definitely think you achieved the goal of thinking outside the box for these. And also, I have to give you congratulations for taking me down in who we got. I mean, I was on a heater against Kyle, and all Stevie had to do was come up in there one week and be like, nah, you're going down. So congrats to Stevie. And you know what I say? You need to defend your title. So I think you should go up against Kyle this week.
I think we should all be in this week.
Ooh, let's 3 for the people.
3 for the people.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's not go into that awkward pause where Stevie has to get off the screen. Let's keep her on and let's go on to who we got here. So we did something pretty interesting for this one as well. We looked back at what we did for week 1, sort of reflective, because it's New Year's Eve. We like to reflect on the past year. And it's so interesting to see some of the answers and how we had to finagle the rundown. This wasn't even called Who We Got. People weren't even clamoring for it at this point. But we're going to
read just whispers. There were whispers.
I like that. I like that a lot. So we're going to revisit, in the spirit of New Year's Eve, revisit these who we gots from the week 1 matchup. And we're going to start off with more all-purpose yards. And this is going to be interesting because between J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson. In the spirit, since Stevie won last week, Stevie, start us off. Who you got?
I'll go first. All right. Who do I have? I think I'm going to go Antonio Gibson. I think he showed that he's back from injury last week. He had, I think, 13 rushes for 60-something yards. Then we just abandoned the run game and started passing. So I think I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson for – actually, no, I'm not going to guess how many yards, but I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson.
So you must really be feeling yourself if you're going to go guess the exact yardage.
A little bit.
I'm gonna go with McKissick. If you said rushing yards, I would have said Gibson because I think he's gonna get the bulk of the carries. But McKissick I think he's the number 2 pass catching running back in the NFL in both receptions and yardage behind Alvin Kamara, who's obviously insane. And he had a bunch of receptions last week too, which shows that if Taylor Heinicke is in there, I mean, he found him for a 29-yard touchdown. And we know how much Alex Smith likes to dump the ball down to J.D. McKissick. So I think whoever is in there, J.D. McKissick's going to get a lot of run. He's going to have a lot of yards. It could be close because I think Antonio Gibson's also going to have a good game on the ground. But the combination of rushing yards and receiving yards is going to push McKissick over the top.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if McKissick is really going to be that dominant of a rusher because if you look at what he's done when Gibson has been in there, he's mostly been a pass catcher out of the backfield.
That's fair.
I mean, you allowed Gibson to do both. Honestly, I mean, he's had big games in both areas. Honestly, so he can bust one at any time. So I think to me, Gibson is going to just because I wouldn't say he's more of an all-around player, but he's used more in both in similar ways. So I do like McKissick a lot. I think he's done really well this year, having a career year. But I'm going to go with Gibson. Just for this, since CV always did me wrong last week, I'll have to agree with her this time. All right, more receiving yards here. Now, Terry McLaurin, we don't know if he's going to play yet, so we had to alter this one a little bit. It's going to be a battle of the Sims between Steven Sims and Cam Sims. Scott, why don't you start us off this time?
All right. I've been going back and forth on this. I think I'm going to go with – I don't even have a real reason for this, but I'm going to go with Steven Sims. I think the main reason for this was that he had at least 50 yards last week. And I think Cam Sims had more than him, but I don't know. Like, one, I just want to be different. And I think he could really be trying to recover from that fumble last week. I mean, that was really tough, cost them a touchdown. And he's really had a pretty quiet year, but I think that especially if Terry McLaurin can't go, they could be looking in the slot a little bit more. And Steven Sims has seemed to have more production in the slot than Isaiah Wright has. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Steven Sims. It's been a tough year for him. He hasn't accomplished what we thought he would, but there's still one more opportunity to show that he can be a reliable pass catcher.
Stevie?
I'm going to have to agree to disagree, and I'm going to go with Cam Sims. I just feel like Cam Sims, it's always a little too late, but he is the wide receiver that ends up showing up. And like you said, yeah, Steven Sims did have that fumble. He is going to want to redeem himself, but he just has been MIA pretty much this whole season. So I'm going to go with Cam Sims.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Cam Sims as well, just because, I mean, he's been one of Alex's guys in certain points throughout the year, and he's shown the ability to get open and have some long catches. I mean, he had a 50-yarder against the Panthers. So I've got to go with Cam. I like Steven Sims, but I think Cam Sims has more of a vertical threat, and I just got to go with that guy because he's a great story too. All right, last one. More sacks. This one's kind of more interesting than it was last year, even though Kyle chose to be a cop-out and choose a tie. It's going to be more sacks between Montez Sweat and Chase Young. I'll start this one off, and I'll just say Chase, just because if you look at the past two primetime games they've had, Thanksgiving against the Cowboys, and then you could call the Steelers a primetime game, even though it kind of wasn't, just because of the COVID situations. Chase had a sack against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and then he had that great fourth and goal stop against the Steelers. He likes to make big plays in those big time games because he knows the stage is on him, the lights on him. He likes to be that dude that everyone likes to pay attention to because he's that talented. So I'm going to go with Chase. I think he's going to be fantastic. Kyle.
Stevie, you're up.
Me?
I'm going last, yeah.
All right, fine. I am going to go with Montez Sweat to have more sacks. Not saying that Chase Young isn't going to be a big impact and have a strip fumble again or anything like that, but I think for sacks itself, I'm going with Montez Sweat.
Okay. I think Montez Sweat's going to have at least a sack. I think Chase Young is going to have at least a sack.
I swear to you, talking.
They're both going to have a sack and a half. They're going to have one sack each. They're going to split on a sack. They're going to wreak havoc for Jalen Hurts. It's not a cop-out because it's harder. To have them be tied is something I should get more points for that instead of just choosing one. So give me both of them. They both had one sack last week, so they're already trending in the right direction. And I'll see you guys after that happens.
Damn it, Kyle. Okay. Well, I guess we'll take that.
You gotta end the year just like you started.
You got to end the year better. That's the point of self-improvement, Kyle.
I kind of get it, though. I kind of get the theory behind Kyle's pick.
Like, that's the third option.
Yeah, I kind of get it. Kind of.
All right. Well,
still a cop-out.
Unlike everyone else, I like to choose definitive answers. So this has been the special edition of Who We Got. This has been great with Stevie defending her title. And we are done here. But before we do, we got to do the plugs. Kyle, do you want to, or Stevie, does anybody else want to do the plugs other than me?
Nope.
You got it, Zach.
All right, by God, let's do it. This is an official podcast of the Washington Football Team. You can check us out wherever you find your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube. You can check us out on the Twitters at Stackpole, at Zach D. Selby, at Cats_Stevie. And leave us all the great comments you can give us, rate, review, subscribe, because we all want to hear what you want to think about. We all hear what you want us to talk about. If you want to give us positive comments, great. If you want to give us negative comments, still great. I don't know if we'll read it, but if they're positive, we will probably read it on the pod because we like to deliver the best content all the time.
Every time.
That's right. Heading into the new year, by God, it's time. So again, guys, week 17, it's all on the line, playing with house money, all the cliches you want to say. This is it. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. You're going to have Chris Collinsworth giving the smooth slide in heading into this game, and I can't wait. I know y'all can't either. So for Kyle, Stevie, I'm Zach. This has been The Rundown.
For more than 100 years, Chesapeake Employers Insurance has been helping Maryland businesses keep their workers safe. With competitive pricing and an AM Best A- financial strength rating, it's no surprise that Chesapeake Employers is Maryland's largest writer of workers' comp insurance.
At the end of every workday, someone's waiting for your safe return.
Connect with your agent or visit CEIWC.com.
Reliable power from Novec keeps us connected to so many good things. Life-saving equipment and life-affirming moments depend on reliable, safe electricity that keeps us plugged in and powered up. And as a not-for-profit cooperative owned by the people it serves, Novec keeps rates low and service high. Novec, keeping life bright.
And now, time for a Happy Honda Days clearance highlight. The season had grown cold, and the roads were covered in ice. Looking to capitalize on clearance pricing, Amy went down to her local Honda dealer and test drove the entire all-wheel drive SUV lineup. CRV, HRV, Passport, and more. In the end, Amy got a clearance deal on a new Pilot equipped with 3 different driving modes. Boom, baby, boom.
Don't miss clearance pricing at the Happy Honda Days sales event, now at your local Honda dealer.
You start your day with a multivitamin. You get to work and you multitask. You eat a sandwich on multigrain. But maybe there's one multi that you've been missing. Play Multi-Match from the Maryland Lottery. It's an exciting draw game where jackpots start at $500,000 and grow from there. Plus, you get 4 chances to win. And Multi-Match is only played in Maryland. Drawings are every Monday and Thursday. So go ahead, give Multi-Match a try and watch your fun multiply. Please play responsibly.
Not in this Pepsi either. Maybe I need to set the mood. What is Jim doing?
He heard each can of Pepsi unlocks a Super Bowl halftime experience, so he's been opening Pepsi cans all morning trying to find it.
Shouldn't you tell him he has to, scan the can?
I'm sure he'll catch on.
No halftime experiences in this one either?
Or not. Scan the can and tune in to CBS on February 7th to catch the Pepsi Super Bowl 55 halftime show.